So one of the little jobs that's been going on, I've got to think about how we're going to filter the grey water, which should be going into the lowest point of the bus, which should be downstairs. Found one of these cheap 20-litre pet food containers. Came with wheels on the bottom of it, but that was about a decent depth to be able to do a basic gravel filter. Starting from the top, we'll have some gravel and probably like a mesh to start filtering it, and then we'll go into like finer grains of sand ultimately, and then finish up with a coarse filter and something to raise it up and make a sump. In order to do that, this opens up. It's got a nice little sealing edge around the top of the lid, which is good. So it means for servicing, because obviously the gravel filter will need to be changed every now and then just to clean it up. And one of the first things I found was this handy little sieve drainer, which is designed to expand across your whole sink. But it's stainless steel, so it's not going to rust, it's not going to go nasty, and that will fit quite nicely in the top of that. So the other problem is to have something in the base which will allow a bit of a sump to be created. So I've 3D printed in two parts because my printer's not quite big enough. But this will form a nice little standoff for the bottom to create a sump which we can then pump the grey water out from. This is only going to be for filtering the grey water, so it'll be coming out the bottom, pumped up into what will be the larger holding tank as part of like the first stage of filtration. Probably add chlorine to it later on in the process to keep it sanitary enough to use it to flush the toilet with. So with this printed, and if we put this collar on here, that should keep it together. Now we've got a nice little bottom for this. So this should go in, I think, this way. Cool, so a nice little raised bit now. So you'll want to control various aspects of, this filter. You'd want to know if it's even got some liquid in it to pump and if it's at risk of overflowing. So I've got these from AliExpress, nice little float switches. It's one at the bottom, one at the top, and they just go into these two leads here, just very simple reed switches with magnets on it. And they will sense the water when it gets up to the first level, and then eventually the top level, which will be telling it it's close to overfilling. And then from there we can design some kind of logic to turn pumps on or off, or defeat pumps and maybe stop them from pumping more water if it's overflowing. And this will all go into a piece of pipe. So obviously we need to sense the water level that's going to be going through the gravel. So this little pipe will allow us to slide that in there. 3D printed some mounts. When it's inside, it keeps the floats from interfering with the side of it, but allows the water to flow up through it. So if we fit this one first, this should go through here. Like so, and then that can go like that, and then this like that, and then that'll allow water to flow up through it and then hit those two switches at those two spots. Like that. And once this is put together, we've got a nice sealed grey water filter. We've got the coarse filter at the top. All the water will go through this first. It'll just capture any large pieces that you don't want to drain into the gravel. Probably hair, anything you drop down the sink. and then through the different stages of gravel through into the sump here, and then a tank mount which will come out the bottom of it, which will then be pumped out. Obviously, you need a hole in the top to allow the outlets from the sink and the shower to go into it. And yeah, just fill it with some various gravels. There's going to be an overflow which will mount probably just around here, which will be the worst case. So if for whatever reason things get clogged or jammed or otherwise this becomes too full, there'll be an overflow which goes straight through the floor of the bus. And then all of this will go downstairs, which will be the lowest point for all of the grey water to be filtered through first. I think that would make a pretty good first stage gravel filter for the grey water. But yeah, just an idea at the minute. We'll have to see how it goes and if it's going to have enough capacity. Yeah. The bottom tray in, that allows us a little bit of a gap for the bottom for the water to collect, like there's a sump, and then that gets sucked out through the pump which will be connected to that. And that means that we've got the level sensor to go in that hole, and then the tray slightly modified with a little hole for the wires to go through there. And that lines up there. And we've got 3 spaces for screws. So then we can put these screws in just here. On that. Like that. I've also cut a small notch just along the brim there, which allows that to slide and lock nicely there. So yeah, that's at least the start of a test for the gravel filter. All it needs really is the gravel adding to it and the overflow and the inlet hole to be mounted in the top. Once this filters the grey water and it's pumped into the storage container, it'll be treated with chlorine on its way so that when it's stored, we can actually use it for the toilet flush. But yeah, this, at least for now, is like the idea behind the gravel filter. It may change, might be alright, we'll have to see. But for the short term, it's just an idea. It's not going to be going any further than that. There's no plumbing that's actually done ready for it yet, but since the parts were around and I thought may as well have a look, but I'll show you where this is going. When this door is gone, which will hopefully be over the next few weeks, all of this hardware is going, all of the framework will be gone and then re-welded with some 40 by 40 box section. And then this will go probably around here. It will mean that it's then the lowest part of the bus, and it should be enough of a drop for the sink, which should be about this level, to just drop straight into it as well. And then the pump will be around here, and probably another secondary filter, and obviously the chlorine treatment. But that's the idea, that's where it roughly will go. Part of the work that's got to go into this obviously is to rip out all of this old stuff and put some new checker plate in, and obviously to start with this has to be all removed. That means the door's all going, and then we've got this aluminium sheet which will be used to patch it back up again. That's 2 mil thick, and that'll replace where the door is. Yeah, first things first then.